true to my brand, I switched up my TBR about 5 seconds into the month. Hi. Hey. Hi. It's me, your Void. And I'm doing this wrap-up thing again. So March is always a very interesting month for me, simply because everything happens all at once. I hate it. Everyone hates it, and yet we keep on doing it. But yeah, I had a pretty ambitious TBR, one could say, when we are taking into account the final support book group, which I didn't really participate in. That was to be expected, however, given that this happened in the week of my and everyone else's birthday, so I wasn't expecting anything getting done in that week. And I was right. Hold for playing. So yeah, from my main TBR, only one book was read, and it was the shortest. Well, not necessarily the shortest, given that there was a manga on there. I'm babbling. And everything else was just add-ons, I guess. Seasonal DLCs? Question mark? The first book I finished, and that is the one I deviated to from my TBR, is City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I know there is a read-along happening, and I know that it started in March with City of Brass, so I picked this up because I was craving a fantasy. And I got a fantasy, but I also got boring middle syndrome. City of Brass starts strong with the world building and everything and the introduction of the characters, and I was very much into it. Then after like the first 100 pages, everything slowed down so much and became so boring and kind of pointless, because it never really led anywhere. Like, all the political scheming we see, it feels more like establishing the status quo of this political landscape. I guess we are going to disrupt it in books 2 and 3, but I don't need 400 pages of political groundwork. And no status quo was really changed on the political side of things, which is very confusing, because we have the last heir to the throne, basically, coming back to the city, and nothing changes politically? That's kind of weird, right? Am I alone in this? It's kind of weird. And then the last 100 pages popped off again. So, I don't know. The German edition is 667 pages long. And of these 666 pages, I enjoyed about 250. That is not a good ratio for a book this size. Yeah. So I don't know. It wasn't boring as in I will never touch this book again. It wasn't boring to the point that I DNF'd. However, if I had read this physically and only physically, I probably would have DNF'd at the 50% mark the latest. I had the audiobook for this on hand, and the audiobook made the middle bearable because I could occupy myself with other things while listening to the boring babbling of Jin politics. Excuse me, Deva politics. So, yeah. But I have heard that book 2 and 3 are very different compared to book 1. I just don't remember in what way. And a couple of things happened at the end of book 1 that I'm like, I kind of want to know where this is going and why things are happening the way they are happening. What I most definitely did not appreciate was the weird-ass romance in here. That literally felt like, oh shit, I need to fill 200 pages with something to meet like a page requirement or something. Let's slap on the laziest B-plot of all time. It felt very unnatural. Not because I don't think it couldn't happen. It was more, it didn't feel real, mostly because it was so rushed, and the initial falling in love part happened off page. The time frame in which it happened made sense, but we had to rush through this very specific time frame, so we only got to experience this initial falling in love, this initial interest into each other off page. We got it in passive text on another traveling diary update, and that didn't feel right. Hold for playing. So yeah, it felt forced almost. It would have been more believable if we cut out some of the politics, the needless politics, and replaced it with, I don't know, first date or something. This was a solid, I say a solid, this is somewhere between 3.5 and 4. And I think my rating would be less if I did not have the audiobook to assist me. So I go with 3.75 on this one. That makes sense, right? We're going in chronological order, apparently. So the next book I finished was actually on my TBR, and that's The Pawnbroker by Stuart G. Yates. Now this book, I had expectations for it. You know, we have a dual timeline thing going on. The cover promises some very horror-esque stuff. And yet it was legitimately just the story of a very greedy pawnbroker who made a deal with a demon that is never really mentioned except in like 2 throwaway sentences. And this demon gave him the opportunity to find a set of jewels whenever evidence of their existence resurfaces. It was kind of weird. The present storyline follows a teenager. I have no idea how old he is because sometimes he acts like he is 12, sometimes he acts like he is 16. Somewhere in there is his age. I don't know. It is very confusing. His name is Jamie, and we follow him, and he goes on a little urban exploring with a friend of his, and then when they come back, he has weird dreams that connect him to the storyline from the past, where we follow Bert. Bert is a thief in Victorian England, and he is prowling the streets for stuff he can steal and pawn off for some cash, and he stumbles upon this giant box of jewels and shit, and he steals some, and instead of bringing them back to his gang boss, he decides to sell them himself. And that's when he meets the pawnbroker, and the pawnbroker is like, oh, this shit is expensive, I want to have all of this, and then goes on a rampage chase across time and space, I guess. The problem is, these jewels are all the stakes we get. That is the whole motivation for the pawnbroker, and it also kind of is all of the motivation for Jamie. Jamie lacks a lot of motivation until his friend who went urban exploring with him goes missing. Other than that, like, the mystery around the pawnbroker is not really a mystery. He's just an asshole guy who cuts throats for fun and wants these random ass jewels. There are literally no stakes to this. He doesn't have any superpowers. The demon only yeeted him like 100 years into the future to bully some boys, which he also did 100 years in the past. This is a grown-ass man bullying some teenagers for money. This is boring. This is incredibly boring. 2.5 stars. The idea was good. Everything else, not so much. Sorry, not sorry. I read another book that was on my original TBR. This one was supposed to be the poll pick for the final book support group. I never did that poll pick, and I never read a single book from this support group bingo board, except Heart of Betrayal by Mary E. Pearson, which is the second book in the Remnant Chronicles. It's the same opinion of that I have of the first book. This is giving you exactly what is promised by the marketing team. We still have our little love triangle between Leah, Caden, and Rafe, and now we are in the barbaric country of Venda. Really love the world building of this, because Leah is experiencing this country as it is in reality, and not just based on her information that was fed to her by the country that is 100% all the time at war with them. So we had her reality being changed left, right, and center, which is very interesting to see. And we have these 3 characters just doing their thing. She, of course, is hatching a plan to escape, but also at the same time she needs all of these plans to survive. She makes new friends, she learns new things and connections about herself and her past. We discover some more thingamathing things in this mysterium that was started in book 1, and then we end off with a bang. That is setting up the 3rd book. This one also picks up immediately after the first book. If you read them back to back, you might think they are one and the same book. And I'm pretty sure we have a similar thing happen between book 2 and 3. So yeah, we will see. Look how floppy she is. Look at this. I love it so much. Solid read. Very much enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to reading book 3 and finishing a trilogy for once in my life. 4 points. 4 points. 4 stars. I enjoyed my time with it. And the last book I read is Electric Idol by Katee, which is a retelling of Eros and Psyche in a modern setting. Kind of mafia romance-ish. Eros is a assassin, and he gets the job to kill Psyche, but Psyche was nice to him once, so she has some leverage over him because he is confused. Why would you be nice to me? I am a monster. Oh, woe is me. So he decides, nah, you have a heart that is way too good for this place, and this heart needs to be protected instead of ripped out. So I need to save your ass, and the only way to save your ass is to marry you. So they marry, and things turn sideways from there. This follows the fake marriage trope, but he definitely falls for her immediately. He's baffled when he sees a happy family picture. He's like, people can be happy in their family relationships? People can be monogamous? What the fuck is happening? It's just very, very funny. He's very much scary dog energy of a Doberman that was trained to protect, or an German Shepherd that was trained to attack. But then she just turns around and swings her hair a little too much, and he immediately turns into a golden retriever boyfriend, which is hilarious in my opinion. I love it. I liked it. I enjoyed my time with it. Katee writes exceptional smut. Yay! I also like that we call back to the first book, which is Neon Gods. So we see Hades and Persephone, and it also sets up the next book in the series with a lot of mentioning of a wonderful woman named Helen, who is going to be one of the protagonists in the next book, Wicked Beauty. Again, solid read, 4 stars. Enjoyed my time with it. And that is my itty bitty little tiny, completely unplanned wrap up. Yeah, you cannot trust me to stick to a TBR. I'm just incapable of doing that. Okay, cool. Bye.